Hi everyone, welcome to Chalchitra Talks. I'm Vani, and this is another of our guest episodes. We have Varun Dugirala with us. Varun is the content chief and co founder of The Glitch, which is a brilliant advertising agency. He also runs a podcast, Advertising is Dead, which happens to be one of my absolute favorites. A few days ago, I actually sat down with him and took as many recommendations as I could. We discussed podcasts, books, films, music, every content that was possible, including Instagram handles and Netflix reality TV. So let's just jump right in. Hi Varun, how are you?
I'm
Welcome to
good.
Chalchitra Talks.
Happy to be here. I'm excited. I'm the worst person to ask for recommendations. I generally have too many and too many random things. So I'm like looking forward to this one.
So that's perfect for us. And I'm so excited to have you here. And I love your podcast. And I'm so glad that we connected, I think, in the first place because of the podcast. I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
recommended yours on Instagram.
yeah.
So I have a few questions prepared for you in hopes of getting as many recommendations as I can. I want to begin with a controversial question, just to set things up. So tell us one thing that you admire about the podcasting style of Joe Rogan and one thing that you do not.
I actually admire the fact that he is so no holds barred that he's willing to say what's in his mind. I think especially the conversational podcast that we do, if you're kind of holding back at some point, you miss out on so many elements of a conversation. That's what I really admire. I think we all hold back. I think he has no hold back option in him.
Yeah.
What I don't like is I feel that sometimes he feeds a little too much into conspiracy theories. So there's a thin line, right? There's a thin line between being responsible and being conversational. And at some point, he chooses conversational over responsible. And for me, that's where it gets a little, gray. And so that's what I don't like about his piece. Although I can never listen to any of his podcasts fully. I only listen to the clips because I can't do this 2 hour plus podcast. It's something which I've tried, but I cannot.
Okay, before we dive further, I also want to get this done with so I have my pointers. What are some bad interviewing habits according to you?
Just asking questions is actually a very bad thing, because if you are not adding something to the conversation many times, what ends up happening is the fact that, and that's what I learned from my pilot, right? So when I did my pilot, I had Amit and Kavita from IBM on it, and we tested it out, and we listened to it afterwards. And I, as it is, hate listening to my own voice, so I had to listen to an entire episode, and I realized that I only asked, I didn't contribute. So that was my first learning as a podcast host, that I started contributing more. And once I started contributing more, it just made it a lot more interesting. One is to say, okay, in your head, you prepared. It's okay, I want the conversation to go in a certain direction.
Yeah.
You're talking to a human being. Many times human beings tend to go in their own directions. It's up to you to be the navigator, but also not try to really pull them away from what they want to talk about, right? So if you don't learn how to navigate, many times what ends up happening is that you kind of miss so many interesting things which you might not have thought about, which the guest wants to talk about. And the last one is let the guest speak. It's the opposite to the first one, but I'm saying many times we get so obsessed with what we want to do and what we want to get out of it that we forget that the guest also wants to speak. So I would say those 3 things really are my main goalposts.
Yeah, I think that'll really help me because I tend to stick to the script most of the times. You released the 100th episode like a month ago, right?
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite episode?
I can't pick one. I obviously loved something about every conversation I did, but if I had to go back and think about the ones which I really liked, so the one I did with Tanmay, which I know was done really well, I enjoyed it because it was me and Tanmay catching up after a really long time. I know him from the time before he started stand-up, or around the time he started it, and he met me for the first time when I was in college and he was in college. So it was great to kind of get back, and we just kind of spoke, right? That's one which is way up there. I love the fact that my 99th episode, which was getting Brocha for me was always the gold standard of conversations, although he doesn't stick to my third rule, which is let the guest speak more. But I love that because my first ever recording, as soon as my show was going to be launched, was to be on Cyrus Says. And so that's the first one I did. And from there, I to get this at 99, for me to kind of complete the circle. But I've had so many interesting ones in between. I mean, there are people who've surprised me. Like I did one with these 2 boys from Filter Copy, Viraj and Pulkit on memes, which I really remember. Like I'm thinking about the ones I recollect the most, and I think those will be the ones that stick out. The one I did with Masaba actually really was interesting, right? Because I've met Masaba in person in a social context. But for me to kind of get into her journey and her perspective, perspective was really interesting to kind of get into. There are people who I want to get back on the show. Like I'd love to get Roshan back on the show because I know that Roshan, I got him very early on. I'd love to get his perspective now, especially after everything that's happened in 2020. Yeah, I can keep going on. There are too many guests I'd bring back.
I'll just make it simpler for you. So I've been reading this book. It's by Tim Ferriss, and he has converted best of his podcasts into this book. So give me like 3 episodes which you would want to get published.
So if I was writing a book about what I've learned from creators about being a creator, I would pick very parallel options, right? I'd pick stuff I learned from Pulkit and Viraj because they really talk about how you create, right? They talk about the mindset of creating a TikTok video versus something for Instagram, like go base level that way. There's a guy called Jacob Pace who I got on the podcast. Jacob is a CEO of a company called Flighthouse, which runs arguably the largest TikTok community globally, which is a publisher community. Lots of insights on how we built that out. I'd look at what Anshu, I think Anshu has a very inspirational story, Anshu Moore. Like he watched Tamasha 5 years ago. I think it was 2 days ago was the anniversary. 5 years ago, he watched Tamasha and decided to follow his dream of being a stand-up. And for me, that's a phenomenal story. So I feel if I had to, I wouldn't pick 3 or 4. I would run through all episodes because I feel each episode has 1 or 2 aspects, taking away the regular stuff, right, which I talk about, which is marketing, etc. So the stories around everybody's creative work life is what I would take and I would put into a book if I had to do a book.
This is a question that one of my friends had. Do you think radio jockeys in a way are podcast hosts as well? Because we've been listening to them and the way they steer the conversation, or they're such good orators in a way. So do you think their job in a way intersects with that of a podcast host?
From an international context, yes. I feel in India, we've unfortunately not had talk radio. If you look at it internationally, like you look at America, right? They've had NPR, they've had talk radio. So they've very naturally moved from the radio space towards the podcast space. Most radio jockeys in India, unfortunately, would say something quickly and move to a song. So for a lot of them, this is, there's a bit of unlearning and there's a bit of learning as well, right? Because they're learning to also be able to talk for as long as they want, which many of them tell me is the best thing ever because they've been constrained for so long. They don't have to say, we're going to a song now. They are primed because I feel they know how to do the voice and all that, but I feel that podcasts require you to be a little more leisurely, and Indian radio especially requires you to be really energetic and hyper. Like I would never be able to be an RJ, right? I'd be too like, okay guys, I'm too relaxed. I've been told to be an RJ ever, but podcast is perfect for me because I can drone on like I'm just talking right now for hours.
So are you a big podcast consumer yourself?
Now I am. Before I became a podcast consumer after starting to host a podcast. Before that, I had literally heard, I think, 2 podcasts. My first ever podcast, which I liked, was a podcast called Work Life by Adam Grant. Adam Grant is this organizational psychologist, and he's written a couple of books as well. He just talks about how the workspace functions. It's one of the things I love to read about, because as human beings, we're putting human beings under structure, right? And human beings aren't meant to be in structure. And how does that dynamic develop, especially in the modern day? And now, like with COVID, so I feel like there's even more stuff added in there. And then after I started hosting, I started listening first to kind of see what everybody else does, pick up some tips, etc. But now I do, like, every day I would do at least 2 to 3 episodes of multiple podcasts. Like I would do that at least. Yeah, I do that. That's my break time piece, right? So morning, sometimes in a break in the afternoon, before I go to bed many days. There's a recent hack I've learned which has taken over my nighttime podcast listening, which is that Rohit, who's my co-founder and also my best friend. So Rohit reads books while listening to the audiobook at a higher speed. So it makes him read faster. So he told me that about a week ago. I've been trying it for the last week. It's quite interesting. You actually read the book faster because someone's reading it out to you and you're reading it, right? It's like being in like school.
So people actually listen to audiobooks at a faster speed, 1.5x, 2x.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel that there might be someone who listens to your podcast at a 2x speed?
I never thought people would want to listen to my voice in the first place. The fact that they're listening to it for me is a lot to say. I have no issues if it needs to be faster. The only speed feedback I've gotten, which I've always found interesting, is that I once had a guest who was very hyper, and I drone on a little slower. And they said that my introduction was nice and slow, and the guest started speaking and it was really hyper. So they said it felt like going from like a nice, slow, this thing to suddenly going to one like radio thing. So that's one, like someone told me, like, if your guest is hyper, please don't let them speak first. You speak first. I think that even Netflix now allows you to go faster, right? I think there are some of those things. And it's just how we consume. Sometimes people might just want to get through it faster. It's like,
yeah. As long as they
Well,
finish it.
and as long as we didn't have issues when the skip intro button came in, right? Someone created that and everyone's skipping it after they watch it the first time. So it's
True.
fine.
So, what would your top 5 recommendations be now for anyone
In
who wants to start listening to podcasts?
If you want to listen to a conversational podcast, there are some gold standards. People would turn around and say, listen to a Tim Ferriss, listen to a Guy Raz, etc. My gold standard of a podcast is a podcast called Pivot. I speak about it all the time, which is between Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. They talk about what's happening in the business and tech space, blends into politics, etc., answer questions. So it's formatted in a fun way, but they're such polar, different characters, and their dynamic is so interesting.
Yeah.
I think I listened for their dynamic as much as I listened for their perspective on what's happening in the space. Another one which I've recently discovered, Bill Gates and Rashida Jones have started to host a podcast called, I think it's called Asking the Big Questions. They're about 4 episodes in, but it's phenomenal. I've always thought Bill Gates was slightly boring, and it turns out he can actually be funny. And this is the first time I've been very captivated by that fact that he can be that. And if you're a person who wants to do a podcast where just you speaking and there's nobody else, which I feel is the toughest thing to do, you should really listen to Jay Shetty. Some of his episodes, the non-interview ones, it's just him talking for 25 minutes, but you listen to it. There is something about the way his tonality goes and the way he moves it around. The content is some people's cup of tea. I like it once in a while, not all the time. But if you want to go fiction, on the Indian side, listen to Bhaskar Bose. Mantra's phenomenal with understanding how to do that. Globally, there's a podcast called Blockbuster. It was basically the story of how George Lucas and Steven Spielberg invented the modern blockbuster genre. The sound design, the way they've reenacted, it's narrated, yet it's reenacted. Like it's an actual experience. So season 2, they did it on James Cameron, and I'm not a James Cameron fan. I'm like, fine, I'm a Terminator. I really liked it, but I'm not a huge fan in general. I really enjoyed his story because of how they brought it to life. Just like different aspects of it. They even do now a deep dive into behind the scenes at the end of every episode where they talk about the things that they did to bring alive the story. It's phenomenal. Like it's actually a masterclass in learning how to do a good reenacted fiction podcast, which is Blockbuster. I listen to some random ones. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. If you want to understand how someone can have a really long conversation which actually has no material sense to it, but you will enjoy it to the fullest and maybe re-listen to the episodes, that's that podcast. If I have to suggest an episode, there's an episode where he talks to Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum and Conan O'Brien talking to each other is the weirdest conversation you can hear in your life. It is phenomenal. I've listened to that episode. I think it's permanently saved in my phone, because whenever I'm traveling, whenever we can travel, it's one of those things. It's my backup. If I don't have anything else to listen or watch, I will listen to that again.
So, what is the podcast that you listen to when you just want to uplift your mood?
Actually, when I uplift my mood, I don't know if I listen to a podcast. I actually listen to music when I want to do that. I don't think any podcast has done that for me. I actually do listen to the Daily Stoic, which really helps though. So Ryan Holiday used to be this marketing professional who then started talking a lot more about Stoicism and the entire philosophy of it.
Yeah.
I got really interested because I came upon his YouTube channel. Then I came upon his books and his podcast. Podcast is great. Every day, it's like a 4 to 8 minute one saying, and he just talks about it. And on weekends, he does a deep dive. That's something I kind of go back to. I use a bunch of these meditation apps. I have a problem. I need to have variety. So I'll have Calm. I'll have Headspace. I'll also have the Daily Stoic.
What's your favorite meditation app out of all these that you've tried?
I actually like Calm the most. From a meditation standpoint, it is great. Headspace for me feels too technical.
Okay.
Calm for me has always been you can always just play it also in the background, or I just have a bunch of playlists on Spotify, which are all really mellow.
Speaking of music, what kind of stuff do you usually listen to?
It depends on the moment and the mood. I enjoy metal music. I enjoy heavy old school rock as well as newer ones. So I have a playlist called Rage, which is my default setting I will go to if I'm really want to work out, but I don't want to angry workout. Sometimes I've done that. So that's one space. But when I'm working out, I go fully lo-fi background. Don't want any vocals in there. I'll try and pick up Indian artists. I love Divine. So I will have his song somewhere, and then I will make it radio, and I will end up going down that rabbit hole of suggestions that come up. I let the algorithms throw stuff at me.
What are you obsessed with these days?
In music?
Yes, one band or artist.
I listen to this artist called Glim. I started listening to him a lot. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. Tabachake, the Indian artist, by the way.
Yes,
Indian
yes,
indie
yes. He's
artist.
a Northeast. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he again popped up on one of my playlists. So then I suddenly went like, okay, let's make this a station on Spotify, right? So I can start listening to a lot more artists around
Yeah.
that. These two artists I've listened to a lot, and this band called The Siege, modern yet heavy. So morning workout gets taken care of. And I've discovered Tech9 recently as part of Dwayne Johnson, who I'm a huge fanboy of.
So you shuffle between apps when it comes to music as well, Spotify and Apple Music.
Yeah, I shuffle. I like, so I've always liked to have multiple options just to see what everyone's doing. So I use about 3 email apps. I use about 4 apps to write notes. It's a problem. It's like I need to keep shuffling between things.
So how do you keep track of things?
I don't. I hope and pray that I remember where things are. So I've been trying to find the perfect email app for years. I still haven't found one.
So what all apps do you use for email?
I use Outlook, I use Gmail, I use the Apple Mail. All 3 are great for very different things.
I just wanted to know one person who is no longer alive, one person that you want to invite on your podcast.
I actually can't think of anyone. I don't think I actually have anybody who has passed away. Like, they need to be in that, I really wanted to get them, but they passed away. I don't have that actually.
So what is that one guest you want to get on your show really badly?
So I mentioned Scott Galloway a while back. So Scott's like one of my top 2-3 list of people I definitely want to get because I really like the stuff he talks about. Like Scott Galloway, Adam Grant, some of these guys. I will hopefully get Piyush Pandey on the podcast soon. There's a conversation we started off. Hopefully that will happen. We're also in the same network, so that might help. And Harsha Bogle, actually. He's been on my list for a while. And Veerdas. People think that I would want to have Gary Vee on the podcast. I'm not sure if I would want to have Gary Vee on the podcast, but I would not say no to having him on the podcast, is the way I put it.
So a friend of mine thinks this, that, 5 years from now, everyone will have their own podcast, like they have their own Instagram handles. Do you agree?
Very likely, right? So that's the interesting part of podcast. If you talk about anybody who's consumed, let's say, NPR or looked at podcasts in a traditional sense, they look at it a certain way. And I remember talking to Sriram from Awaaz.com, and he was telling me a podcast can actually be 30 seconds. And I said, how can 30 seconds be a podcast? He said, why not? And I said, that's true, actually. I mean, why not?
What do you look forward to if this actually becomes a thing, everyone having their own podcast?
So what I find interesting about the space is that we are all going to keep building our own niches. I think it'll make it more exciting because you have more options of things to kind of find. The tricky part is for discovery. I think discovery is still a major problem in podcasts. How do you find a new podcast really well? I forgot in which podcast I heard this, and someone said that the need tomorrow is to have individual creators who have multi-channel audiences. Is that you might be someone who has an audience in your podcast, you have an audience on your YouTube channel, audience on your Instagram, and they're all different audiences. But as long as you have them all cultivated for what they've come to consume, and as long as you're giving them something which is right for that audience, then you're a good creator. I mean, that's pretty much how all creators have to function. It won't just be one; it'll be everywhere.
So speaking of creators, what are your top 3 Instagram handles?
Can I call Dwayne Johnson a creator? Because for me, I love his Instagram account is my go-to Instagram account for most things. There is this guy called Juji Mufu. I discovered him through a Netflix show called Insta Famous, which a guy from our office recommended to me. A guy called Shiv recommended it to me, and I saw it. He is this really buffed up bodybuilder who also knows how to do ballet. He does these really bizarre videos, like he'll be jumping on a trampoline with barbells. And
that's very interesting.
It's the most bizarre thing, right? So I'm always looking forward to seeing what will he do. They're all really stupid and weird videos. Sometimes you need those things. It's like, why do you watch a Rohit Shetty movie? Yeah, you watch a Rohit Shetty movie because you don't want to use your brain. For me, this Juji Mufu helps with that part of my brain. Who else do I follow? Who else do I follow? So there's this 3D artist who I think Instagram themselves shared. I discovered them a couple of days ago. He does this really surreal 3D animations. So you're watching it, everything's in an infinite loop. And you're just watching it and it just goes on forever. But it's like one of those things like, you can't stop looking at it. It makes me sound really weird when I say these things, but it's really fun to watch. And if you follow an account called Puberty, I realize my Instagram following is very random, right? There is nothing of consequence in my Instagram following.
These are extremes.
I can obviously name like a Mostly Sane or a Bionic and all these guys, and everybody follows them. I follow them because I love what they do. But there are some people who I feel do really random things. Like there's this guy called Dr. X. And he's actually a physiotherapist. And he
Okay.
does these funny dance videos to tell you how to take care of neck pain and like back pain. And I'm an old person now, so I need all those things. He's teaching you physiotherapy to dance. I find it so interesting that they've taken something that is so mundane as physiotherapy,
Yeah.
and he's made it this really fun, like.
What about your YouTube channels? What are the top 3 YouTube channels that you're obsessed with?
So I'm a huge tech content
Okay.
consumer. So MKBHD is my like go-to for tech reviews. I'll watch a lot of
Yeah.
videos of The Verge, and The Verge actually has a publication which has something called Verge Science. So they actually
Yeah.
talk about stuff that's happening in the space program, etc. They go really deep into that. There is a YouTube channel called Looper. Looper basically looks at everything in the movies. Let's say the new Justice League trailers come out, and they'll suddenly run through all of it, pick out all the stuff that you missed from it, connect it back to what's in the comics and what would be leading to. So what fandom does on Instagram, Looper does for me on YouTube. I follow all the late night shows, right? So I think my daily driver many days is shuffling between Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, and Trevor Noah. My favorite though is Stephen Colbert, because I think he's in a different league altogether. This is a guy called Peter McKinnon. So Peter McKinnon is actually this YouTuber who talks about photography and doing video. While I work in a space, I've been working in this space for a long time, I lost touch with how creators were creating video. And he goes deep, like the stuff which they do with the cameras they have and etc. is just phenomenal, right? And he also makes it a lot of fun to watch. But again, gold standard is Casey Neistat has started making vlogs again, so I'm happy to see how retired Casey Neistat is making videos.
So I also listened to your podcast, the recent one with Fayed D'Souza. And who would be your 3 favorite interviewers from the journalism space in India?
Can we call it journalism? But joking. I love how Faye does her interviews. I've always really liked how, although he's gotten a lot slower with time, I think how Shekhar Gupta does conversations for me has been great. The guy who does the Scoop Whoop videos, when he does the journalistic ones, I forget his name.
Yes.
I think he's phenomenal, just the way he does it. I cannot not mention Ravish Kumar, right? I mean, you cannot not mention him. But for me, the best journalist we have is Kunal Kamra and what he does on Shut Up Ya Kunal. Weird side trivia. Kunal Kamra and I were both interns at MTV at the same time, years ago. In different departments, but we were both interns at the same time. So I know him when he was young Kamra.
Just a random thought. Would you ever want to invite Arnab Goswami to your podcast?
I don't think he would let me speak. So here's what I've heard about Arnab Goswami, right? And this is from people who have known him from a long time. And they've all said that what he is on camera is not what he is normally. Would I consider it? I would. My thing is that every guest I get, even if they are from the same space, I need to have a peg for an episode. I look at each episode as a peg. So even if I have, let's say, 4 people come in from 4 different, let's say, learning startups, I can't talk to all 4 of them about the same thing. So I normally do a pre-chat with all of them and I try to figure out, okay, what are they interested in? What would they talk about? So I wouldn't say no outright, but I would really have to figure a peg for his thing and not just let him speak. I wouldn't want people to expect, oh, Varun's going to ask him hard questions. I'm not going to ask anybody hard questions ever. I don't want to interview him like what he's doing is right. I want to interview him to understand why is he doing it this way. So let me put it that way. So that might be the peg.
Now I know you're into podcasts, but you also listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, I do. Sorry, I have a 3-year-old. Leia, I'm doing something. Leia, I'm recording something, Babu. See, say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. Now go to Mama. Papa's coming in sometime. Close the door. Leia. Okay, just give me a second.
He's the Temur of this video.
Sorry. I told you she'll jump in at some point.
So that's completely okay. What are you reading these days?
I'm reading this book called Post Corona, which Scott Galloway came out with, which it just popped up in my Kindle list. No Rules, which is the Netflix culture book. I'm about 70% in. I'm reading that. The Psychology of Money.
Yeah.
That I'm really enjoying that one. So I'm almost done with that. And one of Ryan Holiday's books, which is called Stillness is the Key.
So do you mostly read non-fiction or do you also tend to pick up fiction from time to time?
The only time I read fiction in recent times was I was doing one of those master classes. So I was doing the Dan Brown course on writing. So I ended up reading some of the books which I hadn't read of his, and it wasn't great. So I don't even remember the name of the book, but it was part of the course. So I read that. I used to read a lot of sci-fi before.
Okay.
A huge science fiction and fantasy fiction reader. So Orson Scott Card before he openly became a white supremacist. So love his books. I still say I love his book. I don't support him, but like Ender's Game, which is by far one of my favorite books. I've read like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So a terrible movie. I was sitting in the theater like wanting to cry because Ender's Game is one of my favorite books, and they made it such a terrible movie out of it. I was just like, what have you done?
Would that be the worst adaptation according to you, a book to film?
For me, yeah. Ender's Game would be it because there is so much you could have done with that. Sci-fi is not about science or being in space. You're taking human relationships and socio-political equations and you're putting them in the context of not just Earth but across space.
Yeah.
And really good science fiction can actually bring that out. Right? So those are the kinds which I really like. Like there's this show called The Expanse. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a phenomenal science fiction show. It's gone on some 4 or 5 seasons now, and it's got its own cult following. And it's a great show. There's dynamic to it, right? So people, let's think about someone who was born in Mars. For them, that is where life is. It's for them, Earth is alien. But for people who immigrated from Earth to Mars, so all those dynamics. Yet obviously there's a broader story arc and stuff like that. That's what I enjoy about sci-fi. But yeah, Ender's Game. Worst adaptation ever.
So what would be the top 3 non-fiction books for you?
The Hard Thing About Doing Hard Things. It was a book by Ben Horowitz. Great book to read about how when things consistently go wrong, how you can kind of still come out of it. And I mean, this is the guy one of the co-founders of Netscape and Andreessen Horowitz. So great story. Another book would be, there's a book called The Algebra of Happiness. A lot of people don't like it because they believe Scott Galloway should only write books about business and tech. And he wrote about happiness, and so that's one of my favorite books to kind of go back to. Ride of a Lifetime, actually, in recent times. It's a book I read twice, which is the autobiography of Bob Iger. It's told really well. It's such a great story to read. There's another one which I keep going back to from time to time, which is this book called The Daily Stoic, which is a Ryan Holiday book. It's good because I just keep it on my bedside. I go to it once in a while. Each chapter is for a day. So it's good to have around. Like you can just read it whenever you want to. There's a audiobook I'm listening to right now, which I'm still unsure if it'll be one of my favorites, but I might give it a second listen to. It's called Talking to Strangers, which is Malcolm Gladwell book. It's very interesting. There's some parts of it which really hit you. I also think it also hit me because it was narrated and not read. It's very interesting as to how he's taken something called Talking with Strangers, but he's connected crime, he's connected human psychology.
So I, of course, went through your Instagram handle right until 2011. And I found this book. I think your wife gifted it to you. I could be wrong. It's 52 Things to Do While You Poop.
Yeah.
So do you have such weird recommendations, more of these?
50 Things You Do While You Poop, because it's my happy place. I spend a lot of time in the loo. I feel that you think best when you're in that process. A weird book which I was planning to write was a book of prologues, because I always tried to write a book and I would always stop with the prologue because I went linear. So I have some 20-30 prologues and I was going to publish it as a book of prologues.
But that's a very good idea.
I have to find all these prologues and collect them together. I don't think anyone's going to read it. This is Instagrammer called The Doggist.
Yeah.
He shoots these really nice photos of dogs. So he published a book with all those photographs. I have that book. It's great. It's a nice one to kind of look to and read from time to time. The potty one was perfect, right? She gave it to me because I spent so much time there. And I think actually I spend too much time with my daughter's books these days. So I think I have too many kids' books.
Do you actually find them interesting? Are they fun to read?
I might not remember all the titles. There's some which are really interesting. There's this book that Jimmy Fallon wrote, which he wrote for his kid, which is, I think, one of the cutest books ever, where he was trying to make sure that his kid's first words would be Papa. The book is about different animals. So one says moo, one says Papa. It's like basically what different animals say to their parents, and eventually he's trying to get, but unfortunately his kid's first words are mama, as expected. So he lost that, but the book is really fun.
So I also know that you're into reading screenplays. So what would be your top recommendation from the past 1 decade?
I actually have the entire Dark Knight trilogy, the screenplays, Nolan's in a book, which is phenomenal. It's great to read because it gives you so much, and you also understand how he thinks, how he's written it down and how he's built that out. Another screenplay I really enjoyed was, so there's a show called Scandal. So I actually downloaded the pilot script and I ran through the scripts of many of the episodes and realized that sometimes you don't give TV drama its credit in terms of how well written it can be, and it's really well written. You understand the nuances sometimes of things a lot more once you read a script. And from a TV standpoint, I think that was phenomenal. One screenplay I would love to read though would be Mandalorian though. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So for me, like that
Yeah.
would be interesting because I think it's very nicely put together. It's Kurosawa meets Sergio Leone in Star
Yeah.
Wars, which is, I think is like the perfect combination.
So what kind of films do you eventually end up watching?
I actually watch all kinds of movies, but I actually realized I have one weird book which you might find interesting. I remembered it. I have a book called Kurt Cobain Journals.
I recommended it in one of my
which
episodes.
is Cobain's original journals, which was sold off after he died by Courtney Love. And after I bought it, I realized that it's almost an insight into a person with some deep mental issues, right? Because some of the stuff that there is not like, it's not sane.
You realize he was completely different person than what you've seen in MTV Unplugged and so on.
Yeah.
So what would your top 3 film recommendations be?
Not what people generally expect, but I love Tridev. It's been one of my favorite movies. One of those movies I can watch any number of times. I don't know for what reason. I think as a kid, I really enjoyed it. It's my comfort movie in a weird way. If a comfort movie can ever be Tridev, it's Tridev and Mr. India. To seriously recommend, I love The Winter Soldier. I think The Winter Soldier is a great movie to go back to. It's that whole political espionage meets this thing, which I really love. That and Ragnarok are two things I've seen like, I don't know how many times. So Ragnarok I just watched. I love what Taika Waititi does. I love most of Nolan's movies, but I actually would say Batman Begins over all the others. For me, Batman Begins is phenomenal. Again, I would have a tie. I know you asked for 3, you might get 6 or 8.
That's completely okay.
It's a split between Batman Begins and Inception. Like, I didn't like Interstellar. Also because I'm not a 2001 Space Odyssey fan. So I guess that didn't connect with me at all. There's this movie I saw recently called On the Rocks, which is a Sofia Coppola movie which came out on the Apple TV Plus platform. So it was just really nice. You can see how she's grown from Lost in Translation to now.
Yeah.
There's so many smaller nuances to that father-daughter relationship. That's so nicely done. That might also be because I have a daughter and I found that really interesting to watch. I have a weird recommendation, and this will not be one of my favorite movies. So if you ever want to understand how fantasy and sci-fi in India should have been at some point of time, you should go back to watch 2 Telugu movies. One is called Aditya 369. The other one's called Maya Bazaar. It's this mythological movie, but it was phenomenal. For me, my love affair with like wanting to watch fantasy and always enjoy that started with Maya Bazaar. And Aditya 369, it's like Back to the Future, right? So there's a spaceship and there is like, they go back in time. And so I would actually recommend those. What Mr. India was nationally, I would say these 2 movies were in regional. And even if you look at a Bahubali today, you can see that the roots were things like a Maya Bazaar and what that brought about. I genuinely enjoy mass movies. I'm terrible with movies with subtitles, right? Because I find it tough to concentrate on both the words as well as this. I like stuff that has a spin. Like if you ask me for a TV show recommendation or a series, I might say a Criminal. The entire show happens in an interrogation room, which for me is great. That you've given you the constraint of being in one room and how to build a story around it.
Speaking of superheroes, are you DC over Marvel or Marvel over DC? Do you have a choice there?
I like the fact that I can choose both. So I don't necessarily have that. The one thing I would say is that I actually like Zack Snyder's movies in the DC space. I feel that we've always seen the bad versions. So I really like Man of Steel. And thankfully there was nothing done with that. Batman vs. Superman, for instance, the director's cut versus the theatrical cut. Like theatrical cut for me is a 4 on 10. Director's cut is about a 6.75, 7 on 10. That's stark difference because they literally chopped off all the character building scenes, right? I'm intrigued to see Justice League because that is one of the worst movies I've seen past history and beyond. It is one of the worst movies I've seen. I can't think of anything comparable as to how bad that movie was. And I don't
So do you
know
also watch animated movies by DC?
So I've actually never been a huge animated movie fan till I became a father. I've seen, I think, Frozen now 20,000 times. I'm sure I'll see it again. I loved Inside Out.
Okay,
I thought this is beautiful in the way it was. But personal favorite would actually be Moana. I'm Dwayne Johnson fan, can't help it. There was something so nice about the fact that it suddenly wasn't a white blonde princess. It was, and it was the sea and it was ethnic and there were so many things in that which I really enjoyed.
So I just have a few more questions for you. I think there are 6 to 7. So I'll just make it a quick rapid fire for you. So I'll start with my first question, which is the greatest album cover according to you of all time?
Nirvana, Nevermind. I know it's cliched, but I think it's phenomenal. You should
Yeah.
Google it. That kid has grown up. You
Yeah.
can actually Google and see how that kid looks right now. You have seen him in his nakedness as a child in a pool.
Yeah.
Now you can see how he looks. But yeah, Devan, never mind. Always.
A moment in Star Wars that actually made you cry.
I actually felt a lot of emotion when the last movie got over. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I remember sitting in that theater and watching it. And I remember Tejas Menon was sitting next to me because all of us fanboys went together. And it got over and I had this deep emotion, turned towards him. He turned towards me. We both did not have any expression and we both wanted to cry because it was over.
Which Bollywood actor, according to you, would make for a really good podcast host?
I would love to see what someone like Shah Rukh does on a podcast. Because, you need a bit of wit, you need a little bit of these things. And I think that he has all those pieces together. So I think he would be interesting.
And one Indian cricketer for the same, who would be a great podcast host.
Ravi Shastri would be a fantastic podcast host. I think that he will be so much fun. He will not be serious. He will say what he wants. And if you listen to him on Gaurav's show, it's one of my favorite episodes. I go back to that whenever I'm bored and I want to watch cricket content.
So a friend of mine actually wanted to know this. He loves your podcast. And when he realized I'm speaking to you, he begged me to ask you this. One sneaker that you just cannot do without.
I have 40 sneakers, I think, or maybe lesser. I'm not sure. But there are two sneakers I wear the most. One is my Nike Cortez. I love the Cortez. It's super comfortable. I have it in 3 colors, but there's one specific one, which is blue and orange one, which I wear the most. The other one, weirdly enough, is a sneaker I bought from Tom's. It's one of the only sneakers I can wear without socks.
Okay. And Kindle, or would you rather have tangible books?
Kindle. I sometimes buy tangible books later on because I feel like I need to own it in physical form.
True.
But I'm a full digital convert. I don't do physical newspapers. And many times I'll have a Kindle, but I'll pick up my phone and read the book off my phone because I think it's a smaller thing to hold.
I recently started doing this and I feel so guilty about it. I don't know why. And my last question, one TV show or series or even a film or maybe music, one accidental discovery that blew you away?
It would actually have to be The Expanse. I spoke about The Expanse earlier and it blew me away. And a close second, because I didn't think I would like it, was The Crown. I never thought I'd like The Crown.
So I also noticed you've been binge watching The Fabulous Lives of Bollywood.
I love it. I finished it. I finished it in 4 hours. I finished it back to back. So I started off my career doing reality TV, right? I was a reality TV producer. I will watch the trashiest shows. Like I love Fabulous Lives. I think Chunky Pandey and Sanjay Kapoor need a spin-off like tomorrow.
Yeah.
I will also watch, for instance, 4 more shots. I think it's fine. I will watch it.
Yeah.
I will watch Too Hot to Handle on Netflix. The reality show where people had to go on it but not sleep with each other. I saw that. I loved it. You need to watch brainless things. I feel that. And so I learned this from my grandmother. My grandmother goes to watch movies many times basis the locations in which those movies are shot. Because when she was younger, you couldn't travel to too many places. For her, going to watch a movie is like, oh, I've gone on a holiday. I've seen 4 different countries, right? So she would say, you don't necessarily have to watch a movie for what it is. Like I watched all the Golmaal movies. I think Golmaal 3 is by far one of the funniest movies you will watch. And I'm okay with it because I think Tushar Kapoor, for a change, was a phenomenal actor when he didn't have to speak. So I will do that, and I have no this thing about saying it. A lot of people don't want to say it, but I love this, which is why I mentioned Tridev first. I'm like, I love Tridev. I think it's like a fantastic movie. Like there's so many random things because I always look at the secondary characters in 80s and 90s Bollywood. It's the guys around, and those guys are the most interesting characters to watch.
That was my last question, and this was great. Thank you so much for doing this. But before we leave, I had a small favor to ask of you. It would be really wonderful if you could add, a line requesting our viewers to share, like, and subscribe to Chalchitra. Yeah.
I had a phenomenal time talking to the guys at Chalchitra Talks, and Vani was awesome. She asked me a lot of questions, which I sometimes got stumped by. Like, share, and subscribe. They're phenomenal. I love the things they kind of give you around content that you can kind of get insights, also conversations. So yeah, like, share, subscribe.